Yo, what's good, YouTube? Zamcro here, aka Scoot, back with the Ninamori Nation Draft League, and we've got Season 3 here with our season or Week 1 opener. Looks to be really hot. We're facing off against Shadow Tash. We played him last season, and we didn't give him the game that we should have, and he beat us up pretty bad. we were we weren't having the best season. And now we're both starting off 0-0, fresh slate, and I'm very excited about this matchup. We both have 10 mons. We both have super threatening squads, frightening squads. I almost said those words together. If you take a look on screen at the bottom, he's got the Mega Scizor, Crawdon, Tapu Bulu, or Tapu Bulu, whatever you want to say, Kyurem, Incineroar, Swellow, Swampert, Electros, Hitmontop, and the Mantine, where we have Mew, Mega Pinsir, Zeraora, Rotom Wash, Floette, Eternal, Skarmory, Dredagon, Breloom, Alolan Persian, and Drifloon. And his Z-move users are Crawdon and the Kyurem, and ours are Mew, Alolan Persian, and Drifloon. So yeah, lots of fun things here. I noticed that his only Stealth Rocker is Swampert. He's got one Stealth Rocker. So I know if he's bringing Swampert, it's most likely going to have rocks. If he doesn't bring Swampert, then he doesn't have rocks. He's got defog options in Mega Scizor and the Swellow and Mantine, and then he's got Rabbit Spin options in Hitmontop. So I don't ever really see him being like a hazard stack squad, unless he makes some changes to his team, obviously. I do expect him to bring something like Swampert with rocks, and then if he does bring... I don't necessarily see him bringing defog in this match, because if he brings rocks, he's going to want to keep them up for my Mega Pinsir. And rocks don't necessarily hurt his squad that bad. He's got 4 mons weak to rocks, and the rest are pretty much neutral. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. I thought things like, well, last season, I almost said last year. Well, it actually was last year. So last year, we were exposed in week 3 or 4. I think week 3 versus AAA, as he brought a sub Kyurem. So if my opponent brings Kyurem, I'm going to expect him to be a substitute variant. I do have solid checks to Kyurem though. I have Floette Eternal, which is a great check. It has insane Spadef, and it threatens it immediately with Moonblast. I obviously, as you can see on screen, I do bring the Floette in this matchup. So we'll just talk about our squad a little bit. So we have Mew, Mega Pinsir, Zeraora, Rotom Wash, Floette, Eternal, and Skarmory for this matchup. Decided to bring these 6 mons. I felt like it was our best chance of winning. We've got Mew here with Taunt and Roost. I can taunt things like Scizor, Crawdon, Tapu Bulu, Swampert even, Electros, and the Mantine. I can stop them all from, setting up or using any kind of status move or recovery move or anything like that. They can't defog versus me. They can't get rocks up versus me. I'm always outpacing, I think, max speed Bulu, and anything below that, I have Flamethrower on this bad boy to hit the Mega Scizor, the Tapu Bulu. Doesn't really hit anything else necessarily. And then we've got Aura Sphere on here. This thing allows us to hit Kyurem for super effective damage and Incineroar for super effective damage. I didn't really need coverage for anything else, and I know in my, I'm actually not sure, but I know that in a lot of my videos I talk about how people use Taunt, Roost, Mew, and they spam it just to seem sophisticated. And I mentioned that, I like a more offensive Mew. Unfortunately, in this matchup, my offense won't be with Mew, it will be with Mega Pinsir and Zeraora. And even Floette a little bit. It is a Calm Mind variant. So, yeah, this Mew, despite, how I talk about setup Mews being really good, offensive Mews being really good, this is actually going to be more of a defensive role and have Taunt and Roost, unfortunately. But at the same time, it is I don't like using that set, but, if it's going to win me the match, I'm going to bring my best ways to win. Next up, we have Mega Pinsir, which is a 3 attacks variant with Stealth Rocks. I have Frustration, Quick Attack, and Knockoff. Knockoff hits, I can get rid of items on things, which is really nice. allows me to get rid of potential leftovers on things like Swampert, Electros, Mantine, things like that. Incineroar has Intimidate, so it could be like a pivot. He could definitely bring Incineroar as a Mega Pincer check. He could bring Electros. He could bring both of them and use them like as a combination of a check. Mega Pincer's a huge threat though. However, in this matchup, like I mentioned, he has the Electros, so I don't see myself setting up a Swords Dance and trying to sweep or anything like that. I can't bop it with Earthquake. It's not going to drop to a +2 close combat if he EVs correctly. So I felt like just bringing Mega Pincer with 3 attacks and Stealth Rocks was a nice set. It allows me to take rocks off of Skarmory and off of Mew and just put them on Mega Pincer. I think I can force some switches. Say I bring in Mega Pincer versus a weakened Mega Scizor or Tapu Bulu or Hitmontop or something like that. I know they're going to switch out, so I can just set up my Stealth Rocks, and then I have my rocks up, and then later in the match is when Mega Pincer could really, really go ham. Next up we have Zeraora, and I'm not actually like diving into the individual sets. Like I will leave a paceman down below. You guys can check out my specific EVs and stuff like that. But I'll tell you that my Mew is speed creeping Bulu. The rest is pretty much defensive. I have no special attack investment. Mega Pincer is speed creeping, I think, Kyurem. I think that's right. Actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I changed my EVs on all of my mons for specific, super specific things. I think Mega Pincer. Okay, so if you look at his squad, Kyurem doesn't need to be max speed because it doesn't outpace, Mew, Mega Pincer, or Zeraora. I think, obviously it can outpace my Floette and my Rotom, so I felt like that would be the speed that it would be at. So what I did was put my Mega Pincer right above what I thought his Kyurem would be at, put the rest in attack, and then, max attack, and then I think I was even able to run an Adamant Nature this week. With like my speed setting at like 301 or something like that. So if he is max speed Kyurem, he will knock me out, which is pretty cool, really risky, and puts a lot of, sorry if you guys can hear that damn traffic. I can't do anything about that. It makes things risky. It makes things, so much more dangerous, and I love it. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Same thing for Zeraora. We're not just speed creeping Swellow. We're speed creeping a Swellow that is speed creeping, I think, Alolan Persian, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty nice too. It allows us to have more bulk. Not necessarily on Zeraora, it allows us more bulk on Mega Pincer, but we actually put our extra EVs from Zeraora into special attack because we're running a Plasma Fist, knockoff, Fire Punch set with Grass Knot. See, my opponent has the grassy terrain, which could make my Breloom a huge threat, but like I mentioned, he does have Scizor, he does have Incineroar, things like that. So I didn't bring my Breloom, but he does have the grassy terrain, which actually boosts my own Grass Knots. So Zeraora with Grass Knot under grassy terrain with my special attack investment should knock out Swampert from full even, which is really nice, unless it's like max HP, max SPDF, or like has a Rendo Berry or something like that, which I will be able to scout for it throughout the match and things, and seeing how much damage it takes from like a potential close combat or Fire Punch or knockoff or whatever I may go for earlier in the match. I can gauge the damage, try to figure out what set the Swampert is, and then I'll know if my Zeraora can one-shot it with the Grass Knot under the terrain. However, like I was saying, I have the Fire Punch there for the Scizor and the Bulu, have Plasma Fist for pretty much the rest of the squad, and Knockoff is, do I have Knockoff or Close Combat? I'm not real sure if I have Knockoff or Close Combat as my last move. I think Close Combat is really nice versus Incineroar and Kyurem, so I could definitely be a Close Combat variant. So it'd be Plasma Fist, Fire Punch, Close Combat, and Grass Knot, and if I don't have Close Combat, then I have Knockoff, and I'm my Life Orb variant. So next up we have Rotom Wash, and this thing gives us a decent check to things like Scizor and Crawdon. Obviously if they set up, they could be very, very problematic and things like that. This also can semi-check a Incineroar. I obviously don't want my item to be knocked off. I don't want to take a malicious Moonsault or anything like that. Obviously he doesn't have Z moves on Incineroar like I mentioned earlier, but yeah, it's still something to think about. Swellow is a huge nuisance, so having Rotom there to potentially check that, Same thing with Zeraora and Rotom Wash and Skarmory kind of deter, I think, Swellow from even coming to the match. But I had to be prepared regardless. And Skarmory being max Spadef and Floette being so Spadef invested, and Zeraora and Rotom Wash being able to live a hit and Revenge Kill is really nice for Zeraora. Rotom Wash also gives me, so I'm running a Volt Switch variant that allows me to bop things like Crawdaunt and Mantine. Can Volt Switch out on a potential Bulu coming in or a Kyurem coming in, and I can get out of there. Also have Hydro Pump to hit the Incineroar, and I guess it hits everything else as hard as possible outside of things like it does hit Swampert too, but I have another move that hits Swampert harder. I'm rocking Hidden Power Grass on this bad boy, and I think our last move is, I want to say Defog. Yeah, I want to say that we're a Defog variant with Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, and Hidden Power Grass, and Defog being our last move. And for Floette, we have a Calm Mind, Wish, Moonblast variant, and we're not rocking Wish Protect. We are rocking, because we are a Calm Mind variant, I felt like Wish Protect, Calm Mind, Moonblast would be really nice, but I didn't want to be mono-walled by Scizor, and I wanted, Scizor. If I set up a Calm Mind, I do expect Scizor to come in immediately, and having the Hidden Power Fire there to bop it upon switch in, if I would like to make that prediction, would be really nice. So I opted for Hidden Power Fire on my Floette, which is really nice. And like I mentioned, I'm speed creeping with Floette. I think I'm speed creeping Bulu as well, Tapu Bulu, and everything slower. And then I have the rest in, I think. Actually, I had to run quite a bit of Spadef investment, so I don't have much defense investment, but I do have a little bit. And like I mentioned, my specific spreads and my pay spin and stuff like that will be down in the description if you want to look at my squad in full detail. Next up, we have Skarmory, which is a Whirlwind variant. So the idea for Skarmory is I can't necessarily hit some of his squads super effectively. So what I wanted to do was just make sure that I got up my rocks with Mega Pinsir, and some of the things that he would be switching into Skarmory, such as Incineroar and Electros, I could just Whirlwind those around almost infinitely. If I know he's going to switch out to one of those, I can just click Whirlwind. He comes in, he takes the rocks, he gets Whirlwinded out, something else comes in and takes the rocks. And then his check that he wants to bring back in is going to have to take 2 rounds of rocks. So that's really nice. Whirlwind also helps off versus the Mega Scizor, being a Swords Dance variant, Crawdaunt being a Swords Dance variant or a Dragon Dance variant, Bulu being a Bulk Up variant or a Swords Dance variant itself. I'm max HP, max Spadef. I can avoid a 2-hit KO from Kyurem, from full that is. I can take Boom Burst from Swellow as well. Boom Burst into Heat Wave should not knock me out unless he's Life Orb. Obviously, he can't switch his move up if he is Specs, but if he's Life Orb, he might be able to knock me out with Boom Burst into Heat Wave after Stealth Rocks. So that's pretty, something like I mentioned earlier, Swellow could be a huge issue and something I wanted to be very weary of. But yeah, I guess that's just about it for the prep talk. I guess I need to go over Skarmory's entire moveset. Whirlwind, Roost. What is my other move? Whirlwind, Roost. Shit, I forgot. Well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and hop into the replay now and see what's going to go into this battle. Alright, so here we are with the replay, and my opponent chooses to bring the Mega Scizor, which was pretty much expected. Incineroar and Electros and Swampert were also expected, and then Bulu and Kyurem were likely, but, it was unknown if they would definitely come. But here they are. He brings these 6 mons, very threatening. I know Swampert's going to be his rocker, so I could potentially just lead with my Mew and Taunt. But that also gives him a potential Incineroar lead. And also, at the same time, if he leads with Swampert, then I could just get in my Rotom and Defog, so I don't necessarily have to worry about taunting that thing immediately. However, if he leads with Scizor and wants to U-turn out, that could be problematic. But I do have the Flamethrower there. However, Scizor could be EV'd to live a Flamethrower. And then, it's dependent on what kind of set Bulu would be. I could also lead with my Skarmory, which would not be a bad lead, as I could also taunt his Swampert. That's my another move on Skarmory, by the way, is Taunt. It just hit me right in the head when I said that. Taunt, Whirlwind, Roost, and the last move is still unknown. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if I put Toxic on there to catch the Electros and the Incineroar upon switching. Anyways, I do expect him to lead off with his Swampert, and I could just lead off with Mew or Skarmory to, what's the word, to taunt. But like I mentioned, he could lead with Incineroar. He could have led with the Mega Scizor. So I wanted to lead off with my Rotom instead. I can just Volt Switch versus, pretty much his entire squad unless he brings in the Swampert, which I do have Hidden Power Grass for. So I'm going to stay in here, and I'm going to Volt Switch out, but he goes for the Fake Out there, which was, that was a fine play. And he gets a little bit of chip damage off, and he stays in and reveals to be slower than I am. So he's going to get potentially a knockoff off versus my squad here. I don't expect him to go for a Fire type move, so I could go into my Mega Pinsir. However, if he did go for a Fire type move, that would be insane. He could go for U-turn here as well. A few different options he could go for here. I'm going to hard switch into my Skarmory, knowing that I can take any hit. I don't expect him to go for a Fire type attack. So yeah, I just went into my Skarmory there. It allows me, basically, it forces back in his Incineroar or his Electros. He didn't bring in his Electros and goes hard into his Swampert. So what I'm going to do here is taunt him and prevent Stealth Rocks. And that works out perfectly here. And now I'm going to hard switch out into Rotom as he actually pulls a switch out into his Kyurem. So this was a fine play here. And I thought about Volt switching out. And I also thought about hard switching out. I felt like hard switching out was better in case he went for like a immediate Life Orb or Specs Draco Meteor. But like I mentioned in the prep talk, I didn't think he could lock himself into anything, so I didn't expect Specs, but Life Orb could have still been set there. And he goes for sub as a hard switch out into my Floette. And he goes for the Ice Beam here, which was really nice. I thought, like, hey, maybe he's going to wait till I break his sub, and then he's going to hard switch into the Scizor. So what I'm going to do here is fire off a Moonblast just to break his sub, and he reveals Toxic. So this is a little bit unfortunate for me. But at the same time, on this play, it's no drawback for me to go ahead and click Hidden Power Fire here. I did reveal to be faster than him, so I know that my Mega Pinsir is faster as well, and I think my Mew is also faster. So that's really nice. Zeraora is obviously faster. So here I can go for the Hidden Power Fire, and it's a no drawback play as he goes into his Mega Scizor, and that thing gets roasted. So Mega Scizor is now an edible bug. It's gone, and we got an early 6-5 lead with basically all of our Mons pretty healthy, outside of Floette being, poisoned. But here he's going to go out into his Incineroar. I don't want to take a Fake Out, so I'm going to hard switch back out to my Rotom as he goes immediately for the Flare Blitz. So I know this thing was like Assault Vest from its damage it took earlier from the Volt Switch. So yeah, I'm going to bring it back in my Rotom Washer, and I take the Flare Blitz pretty comfortably, and he gets the burn, which sucks, but it's okay. It's not too big of an issue. And I'm going to go for the Hydro Pump here as he brings in the Swampert. And now I'm going to immediately reveal Hidden Power Grass. I did switch earlier, so I don't expect him to expect that. And he gets his rocks up here, which is fine. I could defog, or I could just Volt Switch out. And I'm going to Volt Switch out, predicting his Bulu or his Electros to come in as well. So I'm going to get back out my Skarmory here, and what I can do is Whirlwind. I have no, this thing is not threatening to me at all. And, okay, that's my last move on Skarmory. It's defog. So what was my last move on Rotom, I wonder? Maybe Will-O-Wisp? I think Will-O-Wisp would have probably been my last move on the Rotom. So it was Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Hidden Power Grass, and Will-O-Wisp on the Rotom. And then Taunt, Defog, Whirlwind, and Roost on Skarmory. So yeah, he gets into his Electros here as I get rid of the rocks. I'm going to hard switch out, not wanting this thing to take an electric type move, and he doubles out into his Bulu, and I'm going to go hard back out into my Skarmory. This thing reveals to be a bulk up set, and I'm going to have to Whirlwind it out immediately as he brings in his Kyurem hard here, which basically just gets his Bulu back in there, but it gets in without terrain, and this time I can just taunt him, and he can't bulk up this turn, and I'm going to go out to my Mega Pinsir as he pulls a switch out into his Incineroar. So this is a little bit unfortunate, as I would have liked to have gotten my rocks up on this turn. But yeah, what I'm going to do here is pull a switch back out into my Rotom Wash as he pulls a switch out into his Electros. So I could have gotten my rocks up there, which would have been really nice, and he didn't want his Incineroar taking damage, and I can understand that. So here we are with our Electrochops in. I'm just going to Volt Switch out. No reason to do anything else. I'm going to go out to my Zeraora in case he also wanted to Volt Switch out. But he actually goes for the knockoff and gets rid of my Life Orb. So that's really nice for him, and at the same time, tough for me. Here I'm going to go for Close Combat, so that reveals my last move. It's not knockoff, it is Close Combat. So he brings in his Bulu here. I don't want to reveal Fire Punch with the Grassy Terrain up or anything like that, but I'm going to go for just that. I expected him to go for either pull a switch out or for him to go for Bulk Up, on which I could get a potential, so first of all, I can get damage off. Second of all, I could have got a potential burn and really negated that thing. So it was a fine play there. And I can go out into my Skarmory on Bulu the following turn. But he goes out into his Incineroar. I'm going to go back out into my Rotom Wash as he goes for the Darkest Lariat. It does quite a bit of damage, but not enough. And I can click Hydro Pump here once again. Get some big damage off. It does over half to the Incineroar, and he's not able to two-hit KO me there with the Darkest Lariat. And now what we can do is just Volt Switch out, predicting him to switch once again. And we get him right again. Had he stayed in there, it would have been a tough play. But here we finally got our Mega Pinsir in, and we can knock out this Bulu, or we can attempt to get our Stealth Rocks up, which will really hinder the Incineroar and the Kyurem. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to click Stealth Rocks, predicting my opponent to switch out. As my opponent predicts me to either get Rocks up or go for Swords Dance, and he gets a big Stone Edge off there and is able to knock us out. So what we're going to do here is go into Mew and click Flamethrower, I believe. Or we might even click Taunt. Yeah, we do click Taunt. Reason being is because he could have clicked Bulk Up, and we didn't want him to start setting up on us. So Taunt into Flamethrower was definitely the play. However, he goes out into his Incineroar, and we're able to pick that thing off with an Aura Sphere. And he does not know that we have Flamethrower yet, so we could have went for Flamethrower there. But yeah, he clicks Protect, so switching out was the best play. And what we can do is just Whirlwind. And yeah, get a little bit of chip damage off on these Mons that don't really appreciate taking these Stealth Rock damage. And yeah, he stays in with Kyurem and goes for Roost, which was a fine play. Kind of expected it, really. And here, I'm going to go out into my Zeraora once again, not wanting him to get an Electric type move off. And had I got some Volt Absorb there, that would be really nice. So what I can do here is go for the Fire Punch. I get a critical hit, but it's not going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter anyway. And he gets some damage off there. I go for the Fire Punch once again, and he gets his berry pops. So he's back up to basically full, which is very scary. And he goes for the knockoff here, predicting my switch, which works out for him as I bring in my Mew, and he's able to knock off my leftovers. But I am able to Roost up, and he reveals Thunder Wave, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But it is what it is. Synchronize didn't work because he is an Electric type. And here, in case he had the Volt Switch, I wanted to switch out into Electros. But he just hard switches out into Bulu, which is a fine play as well. I get a little bit of Grassy Terrain, which is very nice for me. And I'm going to hard switch out into Skarmory here because I don't want to take a Horn Leech or a Stone Edge at that range. And of course, Skarmory is an easy check to this Bulu. And I can always Whirlwind it, I can always Taunt it, I can always do whatever I want basically as long as I have this bad boy. Bulu is a non-threat as long as I have Skarmory. So what I need to do is not let Skarmory get in a position to where it could be potentially weakened by the rest of his squad, and then let Bulu be a huge threat. So I taunt him here, but he actually predicts that and goes for Scald, not even trying to get his rocks up, which was a fine play. The only reason I even tried to taunt him was I didn't want Rotom just dropping to rocks as a sack. Otherwise, with Mega Pinsir gone, I don't really mind rocks. So here I go into my Floette, knowing I can take Scalds pretty comfortably, and I can just throw off a Wish with this bad boy. He brings in his Bulu hard, though, and that makes things a little bit different. Now, I know he's going to go for the Horn Leech, so I do have to go out into Skarmory and can't really afford anything else to take that, especially with the Grassy Terrain up. Bulu's really strong. I think it's one of the better Tapus in the format. Right? Well, Coco and Lele are just the best, so then it would go Bulu Feeny for me. Anyways, I guess I got a little bit off topic there. Anyways, I can go into Mew here, and what my idea, like, especially without Paras, I would be able to 1v1 pretty much the majority of his squad at this point. But I am paralyzed, so I do want to be a little bit extra careful. His grassy terrain's gone, so I did decide to stay in on this turn and went for flamethrower again. But he got the full pair on that turn, so good for him. Bad for us. I don't think we'd have knocked him out, but we'd have got some nice chip damage off on him, and he would not have been able to switch back into rocks later. So that could have been awesome. Anyways, he gets his Electros in here off my Whirlwind, which is good for him, bad for me. And I get my Mew in immediately, and I'm just going to start roosting it up. I am faster than Electros with or without the para. So that was valuable information. I can go for a flamethrower here and almost knock out the Bulu. Almost did, but not quite. And he's going to be able to Horn Leech. So what I want to do is go back out into Skarmory once again. I don't want this thing to be able to knock me out or anything like that. Go out here for the Horn Leech. It bounces off as expected. He's going to get a little bit of grassy terrain and recovery and stuff like that, but I will just be able to Whirlwind him out. Unfortunately, you can see the Swampert getting back healthy. It's went from like 8 or 10% or something all the way back to 45% here, and I'm going to taunt once again as he goes for the Scald again, and he gets the burn. This burn doesn't necessarily matter outside of that, the fact that my Sturdy will never be in effect anymore, and I don't have any physical attacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And there's a little bit of stall here. I'm going to go back out into the Floette. I'm going to throw off another Wish, I believe, and go out into the Rotom as he gets his rocks up. Actually, I guess I didn't throw a Wish off since I didn't catch anything there. But, yeah, I am going to go up into the Rotom as he gets his rocks up. I can go for the Will-O-Wisp, I believe. Yeah, the reason being for Will-O-Wisp is because I couldn't just Volt Switch because of Swampert being in, and I thought about Hydro Pump, but Bulu and Kyurem were solid switching, so I felt like a Will-O-Wisp would get me something out of the turn. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hard switch out into Skarmory, and that was a misplay. That was a misplay. So what I should have did was just sacked off Rotom and Volt switched out into Skarmory. So I ended up losing my Skarmory there, which is huge because now Bulu becomes a problem if it gets back healthy. Becomes a huge issue. So I'm going to go out into my Floette here, fire off a Moonblast, and the Bulu is going to drop. So that's the huge threat that I was talking about, and it's gone immediately. So I'm pretty happy about that. He brings back out his Swampert here. What I'm going to do is sack off my Rotom Wash, and then bring out my Zero Aura. And under the grassy terrain, Grass Knot should knock this bad boy out, gauging by the damage I've done earlier with Hydro Pump and Hidden Power Grass. So I'm going to go for it. It does knock out. Get some nice damage off there. He brings in his Electros here. I'm going to go for the close combat. It does the most damage. It could have potentially knocked him out, but obviously I don't get the roll, and he's able to knock us out here. So we're going to go into Floette here, and we are faster than the remaining of his squad, and we can knock out the Electros, and now the Kyurem's going to come in on Stealth Rocks, and it's going to be in range of Moonblast as well, with or without a Rosella Berry here, I believe. So that's going to be a good game. So really good game to Shadow Tash. Nice 68 turn battle to start off the season, and we're going to come out with a victory, so it's really nice. The squad did work. I felt like the prep was there. Let me know what you guys thought about the prep and the plays on both sides of the field. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.